Hi, what's up, guys? Monsters Creed here, and welcome back to yet another video. Beautiful morning. I figured before I start my training for the Olympiad, let me get into a couple of rapid games online, 10-minute rapid. We're currently 2001, and we're aiming to get towards 2100. Now, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced player, I'm sure there's something you can learn from these videos, and I aim to make them rich in terms of educational content. And hopefully, I can give you guys a simple way to improve in chess without complicating or going for super crazy ideas or super risky approaches. Now, enough yapping. Let's get into our first game and just making sure recording equipment and everything is okay. Yes, we're good to go. All right, our first opponent is Ali. I'm not sure how to say that last name. He's from Iraq. All right, let's do 1e4 and let's see what type of game we get. He's rated 2010. And this should be an interesting game. E4, E5, knight F3. Now I'm going to try and play a bit quick, and I'll explain every single thing at the end, but I'll do my best to explain all the moves in the process of the game as we're playing. Now, this is obviously leading up to a Scotch, which I always recommend. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6. There's many lines you can get. You can get into the Spanish opening or the Rui Lopez, as most people know it. You can get into a three knights and possibly bishop c5, knight a4. I usually recommend that line. In fact, we could do four knights, or should we do Scotch? Let me have a think. I think let's do the Scotch. Let's do the Scotch. And ultimately, black decides what type of Scotch we get into. We could go for a Scotch gambit, but I prefer to stick to mainline theory. I wouldn't be surprised if he takes here. Let's see what happens. He takes, okay, so he's gone for basically the exchange variation of the Scotch. We take and then d6. All right, now it's important we set up correctly. So up until now, the moves are quite self explanatory. E4, E5, knight F3 puts pressure on the pawn. If you have some knowledge of E4, E5 openings, you should know that at this point of the game, black is the one that decides the opening. So they can choose Elephant Gambit, Latvian Gambit, and so on and so on. Now, higher levels, players play a bit more principally sound, and they don't go for gambits most of the time. So you do get these types of traditional openings. Now, I'll explain all the variations after this position. I think I've made a video on this, but I'll get into it as well in this video. Now, this line kind of favors white because white gets a lead in development, and eventually that could bear a lot of fruit. Now, knight f6 is a strong move. So I'm trying to see, should we go f3 now? I don't see any harm in it. Since we are going to plan on pushing the pawn storm as usual, let's just bring our bishop out to d3. Castles, castles, and now we're going to have a very sharp game. Excuse me. Now we're going to have a very sharp game. And this kind of simplifies things for me because I love these types of systems where it's opposite side castling. And now all we have to really do is focus on getting to our opponent's king. Both kings have castled, and both sides just have to now push pawns. He's going to be pushing his pawns on his side. So b5 will come next. Let me actually try painting it in red. Sorry, that's blue. Is this red? No. Is this red? Sorry, guys. Still trying to get used to the arrows. All right. So yeah, he'll be pushing his pawns on his side, and I'll be pushing my pawns on his king side. So let's see who gets to the king first. Now it's a very sharp game, so it's going to be very open to a lot of tactics. Yep, b5. We push h4, just seeing are we blundering anything. Now we can just push h4. Our king is safe. c5, very strong move. And now I'm figuring. I'm glad we invested in f3 because now when the next move comes with b5 on, I can just jump to d5. Sorry, b4 we just jump to d5. And the f pawn will be protecting the e pawn. Now, our queen is under attack, so we have to deal with that first. Does this work? No, we lose a rook. Okay, I think queen d2 just does the trick, to be honest. Nothing crazy. Yep, and interesting actually. We could go knight d2 from my calculations, but I feel like that does get in the way of the bishop. There's a case for knight b1, but I don't like that. It looks very awkward, and the king. Uh, I don't know. I just don't like that. And if we go knight b1, we do sort of invite our opponent to play d5 at some point after bishop b7. So for now, let's just go knight d5, which I think is the best move. Now takes, we take back. If he takes the h pawn, I don't really care. We have plenty of ideas on the h file if he takes. Right now, not that much happening. Very standard moves up until now. All right. We still have to be alert on the storm on this side of the board. So I'm not going to commit my king to b1 just yet in case that side gets completely destroyed. Now, just thinking, what's the correct approach with the pawns? All right. I'm going to start with bishop c4. I think bishop c4 is fine. And now, don't really have to react to that move, I don't think. Now let's move the other rook to g1, and I think we're fine. We could just take here. Or we could go back. I think both moves are fine. He takes. Queen gets a better square. Let me think about this. Or should we just take and just sort that out anyway? Okay. We're on 4 minutes, so I need to play a bit fast. I need to think about this move, actually. It's not actually that obvious what I have to do. Takes, rook takes. He can potentially get a rook lift later on. Not something I like. But bishop d3 walks into c4, which I don't like. Let's just keep things simple. Let's take. And now... okay. And now we just push the pawns. And I think we're almost on his side of the board. Almost on his side. Now, he's kind of helped us with that move because it's given us what's called a hook or a hooking square. And a hooking square is where you have a pawn and the squares that the pawn is targeting. I can't even talk right now. You can target those squares and hopefully you get a line leading to the king. Now, very strong move, actually. Though I think we can just take. He takes back. Then we go a3, lock things up. It's going to be a while before he opens this up. Yeah, I think that's the only move that really works here. He's going to take back, and then we just play a3. Now, this pawn is going to be super annoying. Probably very soon. So let's start with this first. And now, could go here first, and then are there any tactics though? All right, let's go rook h6. Now, we have to speed up operations, and let's see what he chooses to do. I think we blundered the f-pawn, but I feel like we don't need to hang on to it. As I'm probably about to demonstrate. If I'm wrong, then I'm toast. Now I think... yeah, now I think rook h2 works. Sorry, rook h1. I think rook h1 works. So currently, I think we have the initiative, if I'm not mistaken. But this is the thing with opposite side castling. You get into very sharp lines, and if you're not careful, you can easily get checkmated. Now, the next best move is queen d4, and you should already see there's a potential mating net after check takes rook h8 mate if he doesn't see it. If bishop takes, if he takes the pawn, then we still have time for this check. So he needs to be a bit careful. Okay, we can still play. Check. And we have mate in one if he doesn't see it. In fact, yeah, I think he missed that move. And we might win the game on the spot. Now, this game was very close because I was literally about to lose. Unless there's like a super crazy defensive move. I was literally about to lose. And luckily, we maneuvered accordingly and still need to find a win though. So what do we do? Do we take here? Do we go for this check? Okay, this is winning. Yeah, this is winning. Queen h8 check. He has to move. We check him again and we win the queen. And that'll be game over. So let's start with this. Then bishop captures g5 after king to e7. And I think we are winning. I think he played a bit too fast. He was spending a lot of time. Well, he was spending no time really playing based on calculating. I think it was just on autopilot. Now, after the king moves, we get the queen. We have to take with our queen, though. And I think we're fine. Is the recording equipment still good? Yes. Okay. Again, I've had like situations in the past where like I always say this in videos. I would record and then find out after the game that I wasn't recording anything, which is a complete waste of time. So I always try to check as I'm recording and as I'm streaming to make sure, hey, we just take the queen, to make sure that all the equipment is fine, and it's checkmate. And it's checkmate. Now, let's go through that game. We have one brilliant. How cool. Let's see what the analysis says. We'll analyze with two systems. We'll analyze with the chess.com line, and we'll also analyze with chesses, which I usually enjoy analyzing with. All right, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. We get into a Scotch, takes. This is all theory. d6, knight c3. Now, usually, and I've explained this concept before, the most common move I've found at this type of level is after queen f6, you have to go queen e3. That's what I would play anyway. And that way, if he goes for the queen trade, your pieces are more active. You already have a bishop eyeing the rook. And I've explained this idea before. It also happens in the Scandinavian. What variation is that? It happens in this variation of the Scandinavian. Let me load up chesses. Just 1 second. And I literally explained this in the last video too. Chesses. Let's open this up. And then I'll demonstrate what I mean. Let's go back. All right. So as that's loading, let's just carry on with this. So takes. He goes for the exchange, knight c6. And now you can already tell black is going to castle on the king side. We're going to castle on the queen side. And it will be a very sharp game to see who can send their pawns on a storm and hopefully get to the other person's castle first. So that's what technically happened. And white is slightly ahead, but actually black is still in the game if he plays the right moves. Black should have probably just started with c5. Black should have probably started with c5. So let's go to chesses quickly. And let's do board editor, and then I'll explain this idea. All right, so let's get a new board. And let's go to the black side. E4, d5. In this version of the Scandinavian, basically the exact same thing happens. It's just that it's not a Scotch, obviously. Knight takes, queen comes to f3. And I used to make this mistake here where I would take the queen. That's bad because if you take, you basically give your opponent a lead in development, which is not something you want. Now, in order for you to get that lead in development, what you need to do is after queen f3, bishop e6, and if he takes, it's a good move, but it gives you the more active squares. Chess is just malfunctioned. As I was explaining that, sorry, let me try open it again. Actually, we don't even need it for now, so I'll just leave it. Now, we then start our storm, and as I explained, we must push our pawns as fast as possible. Because this is such an, let's say, double-edged game where it's opposite side castling, you have to prioritize speed. So we're not playing patiently. We're going to advance, but obviously with caution. And the person, c5 is a great move, okay? The person who gets their opponent's pawns to the other king technically wins. We take with a pawn. Yeah, here the computer says we could have just advanced. We missed it. 1 second. Is it still recording? Yes, still recording. Just checking. And yeah, that we just take. So bishop a6 was actually a missed, let's say, missed positional win, because then he would have had the dark squares and he would have been in a really good position. Anyway, that didn't happen. We pushed g5. And this is a huge mistake by our opponent. The moment he played g6, my spidey senses started tingling. I'm a DC fan, by the way, not Marvel, but it is a saying that we all have to get used to, unfortunately. What would be the DC equivalent? My bat senses? I don't know. I'm more of a Batman fan. Anyway, so the moment he plays this move, he makes these two squares huge targets for attacks, and these are called hooks or hooking squares. So we push h5, and there we take. So actually, queen h2 that was winning. Okay. What was he supposed to play? Yeah, there. And we're still fine. Then c5, yeah. Once we take this, again, the computer wants queen h2, I guess, because the rook right now, the pawn is on f7. Therefore, we're going to have time to sort of put a lot of pressure on h2. He won't have time to play rook h7 because there's a pawn blocking it. But now he has time. So rook h2 here, I think, is a mistake. So queen h2. I think here it doesn't really work. Yeah, because it just has rook f7. Whereas in this position, had I played queen h2, now he has to take. And then after takes, I would imagine we just take here. Okay, checks, no problem. We just move. I don't see any danger in that. Yeah, we just move. And he can't really do anything, can he? Okay, he can go here. Fine. But then we have this. And yeah, we would still be winning. So actually, queen h2 was a very strong move. Very strong move, which I missed, unfortunately. Anyway, now the f pawn was hanging. I was thinking of f4. So let's rewind. So before pushing the rook to h6, I was thinking of h4, which is actually an even better idea. But it does decrease the balance in the position. And yeah, I think things would have been fine after that. Now, what did we actually do in the game? Rook h6, preparing a battery. And queen d4. Queen h2 is still being proposed by the computer. Now here he blundered because he missed a mating net. Brilliant sacrifice. If takes, we have rook h2 mate, even rook h8 mate or queen h8 mate would have also been possible if he captured with a pawn. Now he played the right move, but this is still winning. Queen h8, he walks into a skewer. For those of you new to the game, or let's say not as acquainted with the terminology, a skewer is any position where the more valuable piece is in front of the less valuable piece in a tactic. If the queen was in front of the king, we would call it a pin. The reverse of that is a skewer. So after this, literally the game ended with checkmate. Now, let's get to the next game. We'll do one more game, and I'll have to log out and study and train for the Olympiad. If any of you guys will be in Uzbekistan in September, let me know. Would love to meet some of you guys there. Now, we're playing a 2021. Let's see how the game goes. Are we going to get another Scotch again? We've been getting Scotches like literally for the last couple of games. And I've noticed we've been white for like the last 5 games in a row. Anyway, let's see what black decides. So again, at this point, black is the one who decides the opening, and let's see what he chooses. Queen f6. Okay, I don't remember the name of this opening. I really don't remember the name of this opening, but I feel like that's a mistake. I have a strong feeling that's a mistake. Anyway, let's go knight c3, intending knight d5. You'll probably go knight b d7. Sorry, knight g e7. Yeah, c6, as expected. And what should we do? I think d4. Let's open up the game. His king is in the center, so the onus of opening up the game is really on us. And I think he's going to probably take. We have a tempo of bishop g5. Now we could take here, but I don't like it. Takes, and we give him a chance to activate this bishop. So we don't want to do that. The bishop will have very active play. Now, what are we supposed to do? Let's just develop modestly. So bishop d3, he takes here. We're more than okay with him taking. And let's go queen d2, and then castles. Again, his queen is very misplaced, so we're going to use that to our advantage, hopefully. And I think bishop e2 is fine. And we can castle in peace. Let's do it. We're not worried about any tactics on this side of the board. Now, the knight wants either f5 or h4. Both are feasible, so let's do g3. Our knight is still defended by the bishop, so us weakening the f3 square is not a crime right now. And we'll have tempo, I think, with h5, h4. Sorry, h4, h5. I think we're fine. Now, I want to try and demonstrate one thing. I'm more of a positional player and less so of a tactical player, actually. And the reason why I prioritize positional play first is because most games you're going to get in chess, especially in closed systems, players are going for tactics. And if you can sort of shut down the tactics positionally and give yourself a much stronger position, better advantages, you're probably more likely to win the game, especially at these levels. Everyone is so focused on tactics. Not many players are focused on positional play. I guess they find it boring, but I, on the other hand, do not find them very fun, actually. So the knight is sort of paralyzed now. He's going to have to go back to e7. Can't go to these squares. So once we push h5, we'll have to go back to e7. If, on the other hand, he plays h5 himself, then we get potentially the queen could get captured, could get trapped there. Yeah, it could get trapped, but we'll see. Now, there's no harm in throwing in this move because he has to go knight f8, which again delays his castling even more. This delays his ability to castle even more. Yep. All right. Now, we need like a winning idea here. Could go d5 now. He pushes. His knight doesn't really get that much activity. Yeah, let's do d5. I just have a feeling d5 is a strong move. And if he takes, we take back and we get a lot of tactics, especially taking for him here would have been disastrous. Okay, he doesn't do that. Okay, smart guy. Now I think we have time for this fork. So we're going to be relentless in the pressure that we bring our opponent, especially because his pieces are so misplaced. And I think. Yeah, that's a strong move, actually. Good move, good move, good move. Now, let's bring the other rook here. Mm, should we just start with this? He takes. Okay, I have to think about this here. The problem with moving the rook here first is that he can just plant his bishop, sorry, his knight on on g5. And if we take, then that kind of defeats the purpose of us putting the rook on g1. So maybe we have to dispense of this pawn first. And I'm just seeing, are there any tactics there? So there, takes, takes. Ah, okay. So hold on. So here, takes, knight takes, knight takes, bishop takes, queen takes. Yeah, he's going to win that trade. He's going to win that trade. I don't like that. Yeah, I don't like that. So let's be patient. Let's be a bit more patient. Let's just go rook g1 for now. And then we'll wait for him to show his cards. Let's just go rook g1. I should say rook gd1 because there's two rooks that can get to g1. Okay, now we can push this move with tempo. Takes, let me just calculate everything is fine. Knight takes, bishop takes, queen takes, rook will win that square. Yeah, let's not delay this move any further and let's push. And here we can take. The more lines we can open up to the king, the better. So that's what we're aiming for. And we want to make the position as awkward as we can for his pieces. It's already awkward as it is, but we need to add more complications if we can. Okay, now I feel like there's a tactic here. And the tactic I'm seeing is knight e6. He's walked into a discovery, so we're going to hit the queen with that move first. If he saves the queen, so let's say he goes here, then we have this fork on c7, which I think might work. Now, am I missing anything? No. Let's just go for it. Knight e6. We also have the added resource of knight captures g7 check because that square is reinforced by the rook. So I think we'll be okay. And he resigns, yeah. Yeah, I think that was a brilliant move. Don't even think you need to analyze that move. Or maybe it was a mistake. Yeah, because here it's completely losing. If he takes the knight, we win the queen, firstly. If he moves the queen, so let's say had he moved here, we just get a fork and we win. If you want to like sort of take the mick, you could start with this. And wherever the king moves, so let's say he goes here, you literally fork him again. And he goes back and you get the rook anyway. So, wow, that's a beautiful tactic, actually. So it's kind of like a seesaw tactic. And once again, queen cannot take on g7 if you take that variation because of rook captures on g7. Now, I want to analyze this game on chesses. So let me load up chesses as we quickly go through the analysis on on this site. If you are really serious about improving in chess, I would really recommend you download this application. The reason why is because you get to not only analyze your games, you get deep analysis, you get also the ability to store your games. And this is really important because if you can store your games in a very organized and structured manner, this will help you in the future, especially if you are if you're looking to, let's say, have a reference for past games. This will give you a file, a structured file based on that. Don't know if I'm making sense. Okay, it's finally loaded up after 10 years. Let's go back to chess.com. Recording is still on. Yes. And let's take this PGN to that side. That was a really nice game, actually. And I think we followed all the positional principles. Share. I think black just didn't. Like queen f6 was already losing. Queen f6 was already losing. And us keeping the position cramped didn't really help his case. So let's go here, Control V, and then you guys are really going to enjoy the analysis on this side. Now, another thing which has come to mind now, I hope it's visible on the recording. Usually it's a bit off. Yeah, it's a bit off on the screen. Give me a second. Let me just adjust it. All done. Give me a second, guys. I'm sure there's a way to like. Sorry, guys, for the delay. Just give me a second. Trying to find a way to like make this visible. Come on, come on, come on. Settings. Okay, I think this is visible, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it even, have I made it worse? Let me check on OBS Studio. No, it's still a bit annoying. Okay, let me see if I can increase the program scene, preview scene. Yeah, I think we're fine. Anyway, I think we're fine. All right, so here's what we'll do. One second. Here's what we'll do. Because I'm a bit worried that the analysis is a bit chunked out. I'll have to solve this issue another day. Accuracy 2200. And we had a great middle game, which is fantastic news. Now, just very quickly, I want to try one more thing before giving up on this. No, it's still annoying. Okay. No problem. Just very quickly, I want to skim through the moves, and then we can move back to chess.com. I'll have to solve this interface. Queen f6 is a book move? Okay. Knight c6. Yeah, we go d4. We don't need to open it up. Bishop e3. And g3. Yeah, and then we just push. Now, it says d5 was a mistake here. Let's give the engine a bit more time to think. Come on, there's no way that's a mistake. There's no way that's a mistake. Give the engine a bit more time, and we'll jump back to chess.com, by the way, guys, and then I'll explain every single move in depth. And let's see. Yeah, and then he missed that. Yeah, and this was the killer blow. This g5 move was the killer blow. And he has to react to it. And unfortunately, we have control of those squares. Knight e6 is actually the best move. Now, oh my days, I missed an even simpler move. Knight captures f7. And this forks the rook. And the queen also opens a discovery on the queen on h6. So that was even better. All right. The only great move apparently is in the opening. I thought knight e6 was a brilliant move. Anyway, give me a second. Let's go back to chess.com and I'll explain every single move in more depth. 1 second. I'll leave this analyzing in the background. Okay, let's go back to chess.com. So I'm going to explain every single move in these lines and then we can conclude this video. Let's go to self-analysis. Okay, so e4, e5, knight f3. What you should understand is that you, generally speaking, don't try to get the queen out early. I know you guys have heard this 1,000 times, regurgitated by a lot of YouTube channels and online chess coaches, etc. But I can't emphasize this enough. Your queen has to be like almost like a general directing the other army lieutenants and so on. Your queen is not supposed to be heading any attacks. Maybe towards late middle game to end game, yes. But in the opening, most definitely not. It should be at the back while the other pieces are mobilizing and moving towards the center. So immediately, obviously, the tactic that comes to mind is knight d5, and you'd have had a tempo on the queen. So this forces him to play c6. Already positionally, this is bad for black, due to the fact that he was supposed to probably put his knight on c6 or play something like d6, knight b d7, and then later on he would have had the option of pushing this pawn because we were planning to play d4. The c pawn attacking the d4 pawn is usually very thematic or common in these positions. So that being said, because he played c6, the good thing is that he holds the advance of our knight. But the drawback is that he then takes away and deprives this square from his knight, and that positionally is bad. So d4, he goes d6 now. Notice d6 creates a weak pawn. Not only does it create a weak pawn, but it blocks the bishop's development to let's say b4 or even okay, c5 is not an option. Yeah, b4. So what he's trying to do here, because he's realized this mistake, he's trying to sort of free up the knight. But you can see very quickly his position is very awkward because the pieces don't really have that many good squares to develop to. And all of this stems from the fact that he developed the queen first. All of this stems from the fact that he developed the queen first. So h6, queen d2. And our plan here is very simple. Chances of him castling on the queen side quite low because he has to spend a lot of time doing that. And that'll give us the edge in terms of getting a much more efficient middle game. So our plan, very simple, castle and look for opportunities on the king side. Now, bishop e2, knight e7, castles. He brings his knight out, g3. And this move, I really need you guys to understand. One thing I haven't really explained up until this point, and there's a reason why I haven't explained this, I was saving it literally for the analysis, is do not rush with this trade. Only go for that if there's like tactical reason or let's say you're going to gain a lot of tempo with another tactic based on opening up this diagonal, right? But otherwise, don't open it too early. Don't open it prematurely. You want to keep it closed. And the more tension you keep on that square, the better, because this cramps his pieces and forces him to make the concession or the weakness of taking and maybe weakening some key squares on his side. Now, that being said, g3 is a move I've obviously got to explain as well. He's put his knight on, I think it went e7 and then g6, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So what you should see is that now what he's planning to do with the knight is he's planning to move it to either f5 or, f4 or h4. So this move puts a stop to that immediately. And this gives you the added idea of pushing this pawn and eventually putting pressure on that knight on g6, which is actually kind of misplaced in this position after g3. Now we go after the knight. We don't waste time. He sort of starts to panic because he realizes now the reality of his position is that everything is cramped and he wants to castle. If you notice, the knight has only one square, which is the square on f8. So what do? We take time to push the pawn. And he now has to spend more time saving the knight. And this also abruptly stops him from castling. He does have knight e6 next, but I don't think he played that. Well, not after this. Now, my intention with d5 was not to really block e6. I wasn't really thinking of that. I was actually hoping he would take. And after knight takes, clearly we're completely winning. If the queen goes to e6, there's a lot of tactics. A lot of tactics. And this square would have just won the game immediately. If, on the other hand, he hadn't taken, so let's say he goes, which is what he done, c5. Let's see. If he goes c5, which is what happened in the game, what we've succeeded in doing is keeping this bishop locked. You can see the bishop is stuck on this very useless a3 to f8 diagonal, and he probably has to go back to d8. Doesn't really do anything either in that position. And ultimately, this gives us much more control of the position. He has to spend time sorting his pieces out. In the meantime, we spend time mounting and creating an attack. So we push the g pawn, threatening to play g5 next. Only move is really knight to h7. Now, this position, I feel like knight g5 was probably the best move. Yeah, the engine says knight g5. This would have been the best move. And the reason is we can't take now because takes. This kind of doesn't justify our positioning of the rook on g1 because we literally closed the g file, which is not what we intended. And we actually sort of halt any possibilities of going after the king. So that wouldn't have been a good idea. So what do? So after, b5 was literally the straw that broke the camel's back because b5 now allows us to push for the square. And if you count how many attackers we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, he only has 1, 2, 3, 4 defenders, actually. But the thing is, we get the tempo on the attack. So there, he takes, knight takes, and the key part of why this tactic works. So let me actually demonstrate this again. 1, 2, 3 attackers. I need you guys to pay attention to this idea. And he has 1, 2, 3, 4 defenders. So we have 4 attackers, 4 defenders. Quite equal. The only key difference are the queens. I want you to look at the positioning of the queens. Our queen is the last piece on that tactical sequence. Sorry. On the other hand, his queen is literally leading that tactical sequence. So it's going to walk into tactics, and the order in which he has to take back, the queen is eventually going to fall prey to possibly having to be captured. And so just because of that fact, we win this idea. If the queen was on d8, you can see how that tactic really wouldn't have worked on our side because he had more than enough pieces to really defend that square. In fact, he wouldn't even have to take it. So if the queen was here and I just pushed the pawn on g5, he wouldn't have had to take it. But again, that move at the beginning literally lost him the game. Yeah, and here, what does the engine say are the best lines? Yeah, computer actually likes 96, but knight f7 was the simplest. Knight captures f7 was the simplest move. And the game was over in this position. Now, I want you guys to realize what you do in the opening is a mirror of what's going to happen literally in the late middle game to end game. So this move, you've seen how later on in the future, how the queen was like more of a liability than an asset on the square. And this is why you've got to follow basic opening principles. I know most of them are very boring and hard to stick to, but the ramifications or the consequences of not following them are these types of positions. And eventually you're going to have a very uncomfortable game and put yourself in a lot of unneeded or unnecessary trouble. Now, that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this content and I hope you learned a thing or two. And I said that I'll go through the Scotch quickly. So very quickly, let's go on your analysis. Very, very quickly. This should even take more than 5 minutes. So e4, e5. And let's actually turn off the engine. I know all the moves, so there's no need for like all the engine nonsense. Where's the settings? Interface. Yeah, let's turn off Guys, how do I turn this off? I'm actually so confused. I feel like we're supposed to just have those on. Okay, you know what? Let's just have the engine on anyway. Anyway, uh, again, it's really distracting. I kind of want to turn this off. Okay, there we go. Finally. All right, we can have the evaluation bar. I don't mind, but I remember the moves, so it's fine. We don't need the engine. Knight c6 and d4, and here, as you know, takes knight takes. Uh, sorry, guys. Takes knight takes, and in this position, second, is it still recording? Yeah. In this position, you obviously take back. If queen f6, we go queen e3. And we know obviously takes is not possible. It is possible, but it's better for you. The main line here is bishop c5, and then it's all about who can really control, and you have to like overprotect this d4 square. He'll go queen f6, c3, knight e2, sorry, knight g2, e7, and then d4, and then usually here he castles. And there's one trap that I explained here in a previous video. So e3, let's say now he plays, he's supposed to get the queen out. If he goes for this line first, it's a blunder. We take the knight. The knight hits the queen. When he takes back, we win that free bishop. So it should look something like this. And as I've explained before, if you have, if you have this line, bishop c5, and let's say he plays after bishop e3, if he plays d6, he gets tripled pawns. This is the classical example that he gets tripled pawns. So there, takes. And actually, hold on. Yeah, takes. In fact, not only does he get tripled pawns, but he can't castle now. And his king is in the middle. And here you have plenty of room to develop. Look at his structure and look at your structure. Your structure is much more efficient, I would say. Now, give me a second. So after d4, he takes. So let's go back to the main line. This is called the classical Scotch, by the way. And queen f6, c3. All right. This position, d6 is possible. You can also castle. So usually castles, and d6 follows. Now here I think you're supposed to take, or definitely don't go here because you lose this. You lose this square. So usually what happens? Yeah, takes. Just thinking takes. I usually don't like it because of this. You could just maintain the tension. You could go b5, sorry, b4, b5. You could also go bishop b3. So many ideas. You could also go knight a3. And the game carries on from it. It all depends on how your opponent sets up. Now, the other variation of the Scotch is after this move, he can go, if I remember correctly, how did I forget the other variation? So there's the classical. There's knight f6, which I'll go through after the next one. There's the exchange, which is literally what we played, which is very easy. Let's go through this one. This is called the Scotch Meesis variation. And here, I think there's a case for knight c3, but the book recommends takes, e5, goes knight d5, and then c4. And I think bishop a6 here is possible. No, it's not. So what usually does he play? Oh yeah, he usually plays check to begin with. And obviously don't go there. Takes. And he gets a fork on that square. So definitely don't go there. Don't go knight c3. I would imagine bishop d2 is possible in this position. So there he takes, you take back, and the knight now has to go back. Possibly, possibly somewhere here. I think he's fine. And actually, hold on. There's a line I missed here. So after here, actually, he's supposed to go queen e7. This is the main line. Sorry, I kind of deviated onto a side line. Then you have to go queen e2, knight c4, and then the same thing. This time, there's no bishop b4 check, but there is bishop a6. And the point is, you can't take the knight. Looks like it's free, but you lose your queen. You lose your queen. So what do? In this position, I think, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, I think knight c3 is fine. I think queen e4. I think this is fine. There's also knight bd2. Yeah, this is also okay. b3 is another idea. And then this gives you the idea of planting your bishop. But I think main line, queen e4, I think. And then let's say knight b6, b3, and you're sort of chilling. Could go queen e4 check. You can just block, no problem. And you're fine. Everything is kind of really protected. Now, by the way, in this position, what if he goes f4? This is a move that always confuses me. Oh yeah, we just take the pawn. Never mind. I always hallucinate and think like we can't take this pawn. Anyway, let's rewind. So that's a complicated line, actually. I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest. Takes. So if he plays knight f6, what would I play here? Because that line is very sharp. And if you're a beginner, you're probably going to find it easy to get lost in that line. I'm not sure what I would recommend there. You know what? Let me do some research on this variation. If you want to find an easy system, I'll make sure I have a video for that in the near future. But that's the variation with knight f6. Now, queen takes, which is what we got into, and queen f6. Queen f6 here. Yeah, I explained. You just play bishop e3, just like in the Scandinavian, and takes. Again, you have plenty of time to develop and a really nice setup. You get a good head start in terms of development. Now, another part. I'm trying to remember. There's another Scotch that I'm forgetting in this position. Okay, I guess knight g7. I think this is fine. And here, I would just develop the bishop, to be honest. Or bishop c4. Also looks good. Another move, I guess knight c3 is perfectly fine, to be honest. d5 doesn't work because of this. Takes, and then you win a pawn at the end of that line. If he decides to take with one of his pawns, then you don't need to worry about capturing on d5. You're pretty much fine, and you set up very simply with bishop c4, bishop e3, and you decide queen d2 castles, or you can just decide castles straight away with your king. Okay, I think I made the video a bit too long, but I hope you guys learned a thing or two. Thank you guys for watching. If you're new, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.